Hey everyone, Allie here. Welcome back to the channel. So there are some massive changes coming to Parallel in the next couple weeks here. This upcoming week, we've got the .65 patch, which changes a handful of cards and some card logic things. And then the following week is the big shotgun patch where 67 existing cards are getting reworked a little bit to really shake up the meta. And it honestly kind of feels like a mini new expansion. Let's go over the .65 patch real quick, and then I'm going to take you through the new 67 cards. Probably won't go over every single one, but I'll just highlight the ones that I think will have the biggest impact on the meta, as well as some personal favorites. All right, let's go through the .65 patch real quick and then get to the fun review of the reworked cards, because I'm sure a lot of you probably, if you're an avid player, you know about these changes. But big one, paragons and tokens persist now. That means when you bounce a token or a paragon, it can be shuffled into the deck, put into the waste, into the singularity, back to the hand, that type of stuff. So that's all very exciting. I've wanted that change for a while. And now the tokens have an associated energy cost, which you can find here too. May and must, in order to speed up the game, they've gotten rid of that selection of you may on a, few 18 cards here. Makes sense, added unnecessary time, so we like to see that. And then there were some card changes for this upcoming patch this week here. That Master Poisoner, obviously super dominant in the competitive scene. I think this new change is good. Now it's only one unit gets lethal. Still going to be useful, but not as crazy as it once was. The Terramex Shield also brought down in power. Its stats brought down to a 7/7, and now its shielded gets removed after the first time it takes damage, so it'll be much easier to kill with like single target removal, banishes, that type of stuff. Memento of the Fallen, it just power level brought down by not being able to put it back to your hand once it gets wasted from the board. Memento was always, I think, going to be a little bit limiting on design because it was so good. So I think that not having the constant, bringing of it back is also a great change. Triumph, easy. Now the cards are just reduced by 2 instead of 3. Marco's always super strong, so that's probably healthy. And then Critical Fusion is getting buffed because apparently all the Augencore players have been asking for this, and their wish has been granted. But essentially, it just makes this card viable for cards like Grawl or Ruthless Juggernaut that can bring this upgrade onto it, as opposed to just playing it the muster charge way, because it would essentially just fizzle out and do nothing. So now this card is playable. And with Hidden Vault, it sounds like this card was just giving them too much issues when designing for mobile scaling, and so now they've just adjusted it to where you're still kind of getting a similar effect, but it isn't causing a whole bunch of UI headaches. So whenever you would waste a card while drawing with a full hand, you may exchange it with a card in your hand instead. All right, now let's go over some of these reworked cards, and I need to give a massive shout out to YoJurmy for putting this all together on the PrimePlaybook. He went and collected all of these cards and put a visual to them, and so it's super helpful, and I'm totally going to utilize this for the purpose of this video, so please go give Jeremy a follow. I'll put his information in the description of this video, as well as, utilizing the PrimePlaybook and their resources as well. Okay, I think I'm going to start with Earthen because I think Earthen got some of my favorite changes. I don't know if it'll necessarily be good enough because a lot of them were around like Decay and Flourish, but I like the concept, so we're going to start here. But first, we got Cleanse the Earth. It can now hit Paragons again, which I think is pretty significant. Cleanse was already a great card, but, went down a lot in power when they stopped it from being able to hit Paragons back in the day. But now with the token change, persistence, that means that when you bounce the Paragons with this card, obviously they can go back to the hand, so that could be sketchy to let them replay it. But in general, Cleanse the Earth is just a good card, and now it has more flexibility, which is nice. And Earthen doesn't have a ton of like single target removal answers, so happy to see this change. All right, the next one I want to discuss here is the Helm, which now costs 2, and this is essentially is another ramp option for Earthen here. It's an upgrade, and it says on attack, put the bottom card of your deck into your bank. I feel like this always had potential, and technically, yes, if you had Steward turn 1, you could have put this on it on turn 3, but I think that the change to its cost is like really significant here, because it doesn't limit you to just having Steward on turn 1. You know, it could be a Grove Guardian or something else, but just getting this going sooner is huge. And if you did actually have a Steward on turn 1 into this on turn 2, that means that you would be able to play a 2-cost unit or something else that costs 2 on turn 2, because you would have the banked card, the initial, or like you would bank to 2, and then you'd have the Helm buff energy as well as the Steward buff energy, which I think like 4 mana turn 2, pretty big. Okay, next one that I absolutely love, the Terraformation engine. This now costs 3, and it says effects that target you or friendly units cost 1 more, and friendly non-token units have Aftermath. Choose 1, create a 1/1 Mycenoid, or draw a card. So it's just the energy cost that got changed here, but I feel like this just belongs in a Shoshana ramp deck, and I'm excited to change it. I feel like it being a little cheaper makes a difference here, and I'm hyped. Okay, now I want to discuss this like potential Flourish Ceremonial Rites Decay deck, because I want to believe it has like a chance here, because I think it's really cool. So I'm going to kind of pile in some of the changes that I think could make this sort of lower to the ground, you know, damage, again, ceremonial rites type of deck. So the Skimmer here got changed to now when it gets flourished, it permanently gets a buff, so it can continually keep getting more attack. And it also, they just added the Relentless keyword, because that's essentially the Wind Fury can attack twice. And I don't know, I just feel like this always, like a 5 health for a 2 cost, it's decent, right? And so I like this for an option in this deck, as well as the Paradigm Shift. This now costs 1 and gets 1 attack when it used to just give 0. So this seems perfect in that type of, you know, get units on the board quickly. I think you could still play Aurora fungi, and this as well. And then of course it has the doubled healing, so if you're playing like the Altar of Gaia type of stuff for the Flourish cards, this works perfectly. Sun Crusher, maybe, I guess, could go in this deck, not entirely sure. But Sun Crusher did get reworked as well here. They changed it to after a friendly unit deals excess damage, they get to deal that much damage to the enemy player, when it used to just be flourish after this unit. So that's actually, like, the fact that it's giving any friendly unit the trample is could be significant. Okay, the next card in this theoretical deck is the Terra's Fury. A 2 costs 4/4. Yes, of course, it's going to be a 4/3 when the decay triggers, but I feel like this could actually be kind of decent, especially if you're playing like Mizra Loyalists and that type of stuff. Being a 2 cost 4/3 right out the bat seems okay, and then it would trigger all of the other decay options. I'm also going to put the Citrine Rose in this theoretical deck. Don't flame me if it's terrible, but I think the option to be able to pick the attune state, because that is what got changed here. It's activate, change, attune state, limit once per turn. So essentially you can now pick if you want the adjacent units to have a defender, or Awakened is after a friendly unit with Flourish survives damage, trigger its Flourish ability. So you're going to be playing other Flourish cards in this, and if you can pick when you switch the attune state, that might actually be pretty significant. And Bless, Triumph of Earth, got buffed as well, because I've always thought this card had potential to be fun, but now it says that put the top card of your deck in your bank, so it's ramping you. And friendly units gain Flourish, deal damage to the enemy equal to the excess healing, heal all friendly units for 2, draw a card. So they gave the Earth and Triumph ramp plus drawing a card. How can that be bad, right? I don't know. So that, of course, is getting added to the Flourish Decay deck as well. The next card that I think could potentially go in the deck, not 100% sure on this one, is the Fungal Grenadier, where it now has an activate in addition to the Flourish that says target unit gains decay, limit once per turn. I think being able to give either your own stuff decay because you're trying to damage it or whatever, but also to be able to target the opposing enemy. I mean, a lot of the time I feel like there are 1 health units that are on the board, and of course, you know, you're hitting more than 1, And you could give 2 units decay, making almost like a little mini AoE if you had an Altar of Gaia developed to, give or trigger the Flourish ability, as well as the Activate. So I kind of like a 4-cost 4/4. I feel like this thing has potential. All right, now we're going to end it with my personal favorite Earthen change is Gafar's Peacekeeper. I have spent many a times trying to play Gafar and like make a case for this card, but it just never actually gets the pacifist triggered. And so now they made it so that it has the muster ability. When it comes into play, you can target a unit and give it pacifist. So it immediately does something and you don't have to change for the states attuned or dormant. So praise be, this card might actually be played in Gafar decks now. And so this is my personal fave. I definitely will be making a Gafar deck as well. Now, I think Cathari has my next favorite changes, so let's move on to them. Starting out with Akalia's Cradle. It is now 1 cost when it used to cost 2, and I just think this, it is a legendary, so you can only play 1, of course, but this relic is a dream in an Asio deck. So it reads, when a friendly clone is destroyed, add a counter to this relic and activate, spend 3 energy, destroy this relic, and create a 1/1 iterant for each counter on this relic. And it also, another change is it's when a friendly clone, not when a friendly iterant is destroyed. So any of your clones will do to add counters to this thing. And so to me, if you've got your Asio deck and you have, of course, the Asian Subjugate that will burn the top card of the deck whenever a clone comes into play, if you activate the Subjugate with this and you have a load of clones that have been destroyed to give it counters, or a load of clones that get summoned, then it'll just get you so much closer to the Asio. So I do like this. Of course, destroying your own units doesn't feel great, but the thing is with Cathari, you're going to play things like Cunning Scipion that are popping out 1/1s and, that type of stuff. So I feel like it's significantly better that it can target any clone now, and it's 1. So I personally would like to try this in Asio. All right, the Convergent Aegis. I'm a little bit on the fence of this one. Of course, its change was that it has 3 health now, so it's a 2/3 up from a 2/2, and the thing with Cathari is that the 2-cost slot is a pretty competitive slot. You've got the Cunning Scipion, Valorusi Standard Bearer, Convergent Recruiter, High Density Replicator. Those are all like pretty core to the Cathari list, and so will this make the cut? I don't know. Of course, it has really good stats just on its own, and the fact that it can give shielded to stuff is pretty cool, but it also has the ability to charge now, which can combo with Rummaging Researcher, So maybe there's a world where you don't play Recruiter because the stats are better and you rely on like the charging with the Rummaging Researcher, maybe. Not sure about that, but it kind of has potential. I don't know if it'll necessarily make the spot or a slot in the new decks, but I felt like it was worth discussing. Okay, on to Echo of Ancestors, which is another card that I am on the fence about because I feel like it's a little bit more of a win more card, but this card now costs 2 when it used to be 4, so got an energy change. And it says target unit gains the abilities of a random unit in your deck, and Aftermath, the next unit you draw gains this unit's abilities, including this one. The units can only gain this Aftermath once. The fact that it's cheaper means you can get the chain going sooner, of course, and so more value. So it's definitely a lot better at 2, and I feel like there's something here with like, Muster Scipius type of decks. You get the abilities or Aftermath stuff. And like I said, it might just be a win more type of thing, but I sort of like it and I would be interested to experiment with it. All right, the next card that has me excited is the Tide of Odious, which is a 1-cost relic that now allows you to play 4 copies of the target friendly unit rather than just creating them. And then those units get battle ready. So anytime you're giving units battle ready, something in my brain just triggers and I'm like, ooh, maybe combo or something like that. But essentially, at the start of the turn, you can destroy a friendly clone, and when you do, you add a counter to this relic, and then once it has 4 or more, you can destroy a friendly unit and then, create 4 copies of it, giving them all battle ready. And so you can let me know in the comments if I'm not unsure if play means you have to actually pay for the energy cost. If you don't have to, this card is like obviously significantly better. And if you do have to pay the energy cost, I'm a little sus. But either way, being able to give 4 copies of a friendly unit battle ready is intriguing, and so maybe there's something fun here. Real quick, the Rubicon, always loved this card. Fun value Cathari card. It now has shielded, makes it a lot better. So I'm excited to maybe try a value Cathari deck. All right, now on to my personal favorite, which is the Convergent Mass. I always wanted this card to be good, and so maybe the change will make it better. But essentially, it used to be at the start of your turn, if this is in your deck, this unit gains +1/+1. So while it's chilling in the deck, it's just gaining stats. And then when it comes into play, muster, you may charge 3. If you do, this unit gains at the end of your turn. Clones in your deck get +1/+1 when it used to be at the start of your turn. So if your opponent had killed it, you weren't going to get the stats for the clones in your deck. And so now you're guaranteed going to at least get 1 hit of the +1/+1. Which is pretty cool. And then they get an additional attack if they're convergence. So I love the change to this card. I guess we will see if buffing up the clones in the deck is really necessary, because Cathari can do a lot of damage going wide with things like the Druzian Exorator. And so is that extra +1/+1 all that worth it? But it's only 1 slot in the deck, and it's a legendary, right? So I like it, I'm going to play it, and again, the change makes it significantly better. Okay, moving on to Shroud, my personal favorite parallel, and we'll start out with Dimension Shifter. It's a relic, and they've changed the cost from 4 to 2 and changed the function. So now the new one is activate, banish a friendly unit, and then put a random unit from your singularity onto the field, limit once per turn. It doesn't feel great to be banishing your own stuff, of course, but it is still a banish trigger. And so if you have a Singularity Steward on the board, or a Void Keeper, or something that is going to benefit from banishes, it's decent because it's a relic, so it'll already be on the board and it's just an activate. So you'll sort of have access to a banish trigger with this thing developed. And I'm pretty sure that you could banish the unit, have that same unit go into the singularity, and then pull it back out, because it says, like, at least from what I think, it says banish a friendly unit and then put a random unit from your singularity. I think that's how it would work. But in the case that it doesn't, I still think the card has potential. And, you might pull out something kind of spicy early on if you've managed to put, something significant in your singularity. So yes, of course, it's random, but that's sort of Shroud's thing too, is that it works off of a little bit of randomness. Shout out to Baron. But this card has got me excited, and so I'm definitely going to try it out. Okay, massive change. Honored Steward just continually keeps getting hit and hit for all of us Shroud players out there. But Honored Steward now costs 5, so it got more expensive, and that also means that you cannot no snitching this after you have banished a unit so that it doesn't come back, so that's unfortunate. But it is what it is. This card was always way too good to begin with, and so, and then it hit her. We can banish paragons again. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna leave this realization in the video. Okay, hold up, fam. We can hit paragons again. Never mind. This is fine. I will take the increased cost if I can hit paragons again with my Honored Steward. Okay, let's go. I'm happy. This is fine. Okay, on the subject of cards that can hit paragons again, we have the Flat Circle, which now just puts target card into owner's hand, can be a paragon, and its cost is reduced from 3 to 2. So sap, essentially, to all my Hearthstone players out there. And of course, the excitement that it can hit paragons again, is mitigated a little bit that paragons are going to exist in the hand. So that is a little sketchy, allowing them to replay it. But still, sometimes you just need an answer. You need to get a card off, or the paragon off of the board quickly and cheaply, and then you can develop more and put yourself in a way better position to deal with it the next turn, and it completely stops their tempo. So I think the flat circle going back to 2, as I think it was once 2, and it can hit the paragons. I love it. So what they did with Shroud. So now we'll just discuss quickly what I think they were going for with Shroud in the shotgun patch. And it seems like they've tried to buff a lot of the corrupted synergy cards with Shroud, and because it didn't really take off. There were cards like Malia, of course, that have the corrupted keyword, and they make use of it. But in terms of a deck built around the corrupted keyword, never really took off. So I think that's their logic in trying to buff some of these corrupted cards. But I'm not convinced that it will make a massive impact, but we can discuss a couple of them real quick. So the corrupting hand, its cost did get increased to 7, but the new version is that it is an activate instead of a muster, which is what it used to be. So it's activate, play a random unit from the enemy deck with cost less than or equal to the number of cards in your singularity. That unit becomes corrupted, and it is limited to once per turn. So this card can continually pull cards out of your opponent's deck, but obviously limited once per turn. And so they had to increase the cost a little bit, because that would probably be too good. So this card definitely is intriguing, and this one actually might be better than I'm originally thought. I'm down to try and meme and dream with a corrupted Shroud deck. But so this one I find interesting. And then the Covert Simulator, that's another one. The Dark Warden, these are all corrupted cards that are getting changed that I don't think are that great. I could be wrong. Essence Shift, that was just wording with the token functionality. But the Marionette Mastery would be my other pick of favorites of the corrupted cards that got changed. And so it used to be create corrupted copies of 4 different random non-paragon units from your singularity. And now it's create and play corrupted copies of 4 different units from the singularity. So being able to play the cards, much better, very, very significant. And so perhaps there is something here. The Ruinous Exarch also is another one that got changed as well. Again, I'm a little unconvinced with the corrupted strategy, just because of course you're still damaging yourself whenever you're playing these extra corrupted cards, and Shroud still doesn't have access to that much healing, and I also think it's a little bit of a slower strategy, right? It's going to be pretty tough to face down the aggro decks, but there might be hope. So I am down to try it out. Augencore, let's get it. I think that one of the biggest changes to Augencore is the Forlorn Companion now having 2 health instead of 1. I think one of Augencore's biggest issues is just getting on the ground, on the board in the early game, and it's so necessary for them to be able to do that because they're upgrades, right? So they need those units to be able to attach the upgrades to. And so this having 2 health and salvage plus overclock, this card was already good in my opinion, and so now I think it's a lot better because it can't die to a mercenary gunslinger and that type of thing. So I love this change. Okay, next one to discuss is John's Tactical Provisioner. So it is a 2-cost 2/2 with salvage. Activate charge. The next time this unit is upgraded this turn, it gains plus 0/2 in stats and shielded. And that's what the change was, is that it didn't used to get shielded. It's limit once per turn. I think this has a shot. Getting the shielded ability, it's certainly much better, and it could put it on the map. We would compare this to the Security Officer, which is a 2-cost 2/2. Whenever you attach an upgrade to it, it gets +1/+1 and shielded. So I think the fact that this one has salvage probably makes it a little bit better than the Security Officer, and it is also an activate and a charge, so rummaging researcher, anything that combos with charge effects it has that option as well. So I think that this change, like I said, could potentially bring it on the map, especially now because there are some other upgrades that got changed that could combo well with it too. One of which is the self-repairing nanite. So that's what we'll discuss next here. And essentially the change was that they made the activate energy cost cheaper. So now the card is upgraded unit has +1/+1. Oh, sorry. And also it now costs 1 instead of 3. That's why it's such a significant change. So it's 1 cost, but upgraded unit has +1/+1. When this upgrade enters the field from the waste, upgraded unit has +2/+2 instead. And then when this upgrade is in the waste, activate, spend 3 energy, used to be 4, attach this upgrade to a unit on the field. So the biggest difference is that it is now a 1 cost upgrade. And so it could go on something like that John's Tactical Provisioner. And just having the flexibility to bring it back is really nice, because sometimes you like whiff your turn 3 or you don't have much to do, and being able to, fill out your energy for the turn, maybe it's a later turn or maybe it is turn 3, and do something if your hand is bricked or whatever. Being able to bring this back for +2/+2, if you've got a whole bunch of other like salvage synergy in the deck, sounds really cool. So I love this change. Okay, on to another upgrade that I like that got switched up here is the VoxTech drones. So it is now allowing you to target any enemy when it was previously random. So the upgrade now reads, when this upgrade is attached, it deals 2 damage to target enemy. Means it can also go face, because an enemy is also face. So I like this. I think with other salvage cards, like especially in the early game, 2 damage is like a PS8 launcher, attached to this to a unit, and it also would get through shielded, right? Because the 2 damage would be able to trigger onto a shielded unit. So this type of upgrade, in those early turns attached to units that have salvage and stuff like that, could really help Augencore control the board in the early game, which is, I think, where it struggles the most. And as I said earlier, you really need to be able to have that board control because you need units to attach your upgrades to. So I like this rather than it being random. I don't know how impactful it will really be, but I wanted to bring it up because I think that targeting is necessary. And also sometimes, like, those moments when you just need a gunslinger to kill your opponent because they're at 1. Same vibe, Like maybe you top deck this in the late game and you have, a unit on the board, and an extra 2 damage might just give you the game. So I think it's cool. And the last Augencore change that I want to discuss that is my personal favorite is the Triumph of Iron. So they have made it now that you create 2 1/1 nanobots. Overclock costs you 1 less this turn, and target up to 3 units and overclock them. So it used to be that you looked at the top 6 cards of your deck. For each upgrade among them, you may attach it to a target unit and shuffle the deck. And also it created the 1/1 nanobots. But having to rely on the upgrades being in the top 6 cards, very unreliable. And so now you get to get immediate value from the overclock on 3 units, which is pretty significant. And of course you could put it on other units, but they give you 2 nanobots to, be able to at least have targets for them if your board was empty. So that seems pretty good to me. Essentially, it means that the random 1 cost overclock you can get for free. And then if you wanted to do the targeted, like the choice overclock that costs 2, that'll cost 1 now. So I feel like this card is gonna be playable. I hope so. And I'm personally excited to try it. Okay, moving on to potentially the most controversial card from the 67 changes here, and also beginning our Markolian discussion, is Catherine, Sword of Valley. So they've just reworked this card and changed the stats. So she's now a 4 cost 5/5. But this card cannot be played in your deck if Catherine the Point, the Mad General, is your Paragon. And after you end your turn, this unit attacks a random enemy. So they've essentially just remade Catherine the Paragon and allowed you to put it in ADHQ and Lemieux, but not Catherine herself. And so we get Kathy in the other decks as well. And I'm so torn on if I like this idea or not. I'm certainly I think I'm putting this as like my favorite Markolian card because I just want to see what happens, like how, the community feels about dealing with Kathy. If there was ever a Paragon to make it into the other decks, it absolutely would be Kathy. So I'm glad they decided to take the risk. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing really crazy new here. We know how Kathy works, and so I am interested to see if it'll, make Lemieux and ADHQ better or more significant. But of course, it's a legendary, so you can only have one of her in there. But it should be fun to see Kathy in more places. I might regret saying that. Next change is the Machinist now draws a random vehicle with cost 1 or more when it used to just be any vehicle. And the reason why they changed this is because of the Bloodhound transport. It was just so difficult to come back on board sometimes with certain decks with that Bloodhound getting, its stats buffed with Catherine's passive ability, right? The becoming like a 1/3 up from an 0/2. And so, changing this just makes it fairer, and I'm really happy that they did it. I've always liked the Combat Heuristics Extrapolator, and we only got to play with it initially before it got nerfed in such a short amount of time because it was so good and they had to handle it. But now they've just made the stat of the health a little more increased. So now it has 5 instead of 4. And so I don't know if it'll necessarily see play, but I always thought it was kind of a cool one. And so maybe the health change will do something and bring it back in some of these Markolian decks. Next one is the Red Sand Scout. Not the most exciting. It's just changed from a 1/1 to a 1/2, but it is still a vehicle. And so I think that, the health increased, again, not like dying to Gunslinger and things like that, could be significant, maybe for an ADHQ deck or something along those lines. Again, not the most flashy, but could see some play. Okay, so on to the universal cards, and we'll start out with Cyrene Trophy Hunter. So essentially, they've made this card a little bit more expensive. She costs 5 now, and she's a 5/5, but they just made her better, a little bit more streamlined. And so now she has Battle Ready, which makes this card so much better, and reads, after this unit destroys a unit, it gains a counter, and then activate once per turn. You can choose between removing 1 counter from this unit and deal 2 damage to target enemy unit, not just enemy. Remove 2 counters from this unit and fully heal it, and then remove 3 counters from this unit and it may attack any target. So just the fact that it has Battle Ready means that it will be able to come into play and hopefully destroy a unit and gain that initial counter, which seems pretty likely to do. If you're playing it in the mid-game 4/5, there's very likely to be some kind of a lower statted unit that Cyrene can value trade into. And, if you need that immediate 2 damage to another enemy unit, which I actually think, these little, similar to that other upgrade in Augencore, I actually think that, the 2 damage, again, they're PS8 launchers, just attached to units. So I think that it could definitely be useful. And I've always wanted Cyrene to be better because she reminds me of Jinx in Arcane and League of Legends, of course. So yeah, I'm super happy to see these changes, and I do wonder, again, it's a battle ready unit, so maybe some of those other cards that allow you to play copies of cards, maybe there's something of a big wombo combo, maybe, but love the change to this card. Good job, team. Okay, the next one I want to shout out is the Duplicitous Dealer, because Vandalizer Shroud deck homies, essentially, I just want to say, thank you, team, for sort of condensing all of the text down. They've changed the function of this card and made it much simpler. It's just, after this unit deals damage to the enemy, shuffle a Sabotage supply cache into the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. And I'm not even going to read what it used to do because too much text. So the Vandalizer Shroud deck, other than Vandalizer being the 2 cost, I don't remember there being that many ways to shuffle too many Sabotage supply caches in there. So maybe this goes in there. I still don't think the deck will be that great. It'll probably be a meme. But hey, a 1-cost 1/2 is not that bad. And then shuffling in the caches is a good time. So wanted to shout this one out. We can talk about the hacker change real quick, which is essentially the same exact thing, except it draws a card now at the end of the turn. So there was a period in time where the hacker costed 4, and we were seeing hacker in a whole bunch of well, it was really just in like universal decks, but you know, some people were memeing and dreaming and just made hacker decks, and it was pretty good. And its power level just being the 5-cost 3/5 now just made it not super playable, but the fact that you get to draw a card after, I think makes it much better. So this sort of teeters on like probably it's not going to be what it was at 4, but for those people that sort of miss playing a hacker deck, it makes it feel a lot better. So I'm happy that they added the draw a card function here. Okay, we're gonna finish this video with my personal favorite universal change, and that is of course Gosan. Always loved this card. I've like in my New Dawn decks, you know, New Dawn needs healing. It's a control deck, you know, and the options for healing in the game, at least universal options. I suppose Earthen has a lot, but for Shroudies out there, you don't have a ton of options. So I always was trying to put Gosan in the list. Also maybe like a Scipius deck with the muster ability, but essentially just an energy cost change. Gosan now costs 4 when he used to cost 5, and I don't know, it could be significant. I'm just putting this in my like personal fave category because I like the healing. But for those of you that forgot what he does, muster, heal yourself equal to half the damage taken on the previous enemy turn, round it up, deal that much damage 1 at a time to random enemy targets. So you get to heal yourself as well as deal the damage, and he's always been one of my faves. So thank you, Muka and Veen, for buffing Gosan. All right, folks, there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed me going over the cards that I think stood out the most. There are still other ones that I did not discuss here that were, you know, solid changes, but I don't think they'll have that big of an impact. But I really love the idea of the shotgun patch here. This is not done very often in games at all, and so it should be a really nice shakeup to the meta, because I do think that, you know, there's the cycles to the metas, and I think it's been a little stale recently, and so I'm super stoked to have, you know, a massive overhaul of these 67 cards. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if I didn't talk about one of the cards that you think is going to be a huge impact on the meta in the comments, or you know what you thought of my opinions on the existing ones. And I look forward to making more content for you guys in the future with these changes. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please give the video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next one.